Chapter 6. Picture this. I am visually oriented. One of my favorite spunky girls is My Fair Lady's Eliza Doolittle, a character created as a walking, breathing language experiment. She makes herself impossible to ignore in a number of ways, never more so than in the song Show Me, when she admonishes her lover to knock it off with the words, 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 I'm so sick of words, followed by, don't waste my time, show me. Many children with autism would cheer her sentiments. Visual cueing is hardly a novelty. If you carry a day planner, electronic or paper, or keep a calendar on your desk or wall, you're using a visual support. Sign language, I've seen it called hand speak, is a highly developed form of visual communication that includes facial expression and body language in a manner similar to how vocal volume and inflection enhance the meaning of spoken language. Semaphore uses flag signals rather than words and letters to communicate visually across distances. Go to a baseball game and watch the third base coach rub his forearm, grab his belt, and slap his chest. He's not auditioning for a Jane Goodall film. He's telling his base runner to stay put unless the ball is a hopper to shallow right field. All these modes of interface use something other than spoken words to achieve functional communication. Your child or student may have a profound need for visual cueing. Many individuals with autism think in images, not words. Their primary language is pictorial, not verbal. A child may have minimal verbal expressive language, but are we arrogant enough or naive enough to think that this means he has no thoughts, preferences, opinions, ideas, or beliefs? Does that tree falling in the woods make no sound because no one is around to hear it? Nonsense. Your child or student may be translating his life experiences into pictures in his head. It is a language no less legitimate than the one you use to speak, and it's the one you must accommodate if you want to reach and teach him in a meaningful way that leads to meaningful results. Temple Grandin elevated the world's awareness of her visual orientation in her 1996 book, Thinking in Pictures, which opens, I think in pictures. Words are like a second language to me. I translate both spoken and written words into full-color movies, complete with sound, which run like a VCR tape in my head. When somebody speaks to me, his words are instantly translated into pictures. Language-based thinkers often find this phenomenon difficult to understand. As we established in Chapter 5, the ability to communicate, to receive, express, and feel heard is fundamental to the overall healthy functioning of your child, of any person. Without an effective means of communication, a visually oriented child, square peg, continually being squeezed into a verbally oriented world, round hole, is bound to feel unheard, embattled, overwhelmed, and outnumbered. What should she do but retreat? Creating a visual schedule or other visual strategy to help your child navigate his school day or home routine may be one of the first tools suggested by your school team or by your own research. Why? It 1. Provides the structure and predictability essential to children with autism. Knowing what happens next frees her to focus on the task or activity at hand without the anxiety of worrying about what comes next and when. 2. Provides a touchstone, a consistent source of information that enables her to trust that events will unfold logically and she can feel safe in that routine. 3. Reinforces the first then strategy for dealing with less enjoyable tasks. First you finish 8 math problems, Then you may have 5 minutes on the computer helps him feel motivated rather than lapsing into avoidance or procrastination. 4. Increases his ability to perform tasks autonomously and to transition between activities independently. 5. Can help ease the rigidity of thinking and inflexibility that frequently characterize autism. As the child's confidence in his independence grows, you can insert curveballs into the schedule in the form of varied activities or a question mark, indicating a surprise activity. 6. Can incorporate social skill building. The schedule might include a 5-minute play or read with a classmate time, or say or wave goodbye to 3 people. All of this builds and fortifies your child or student's ability to understand and meet the expectations of those around him. Not all visual schedules are created equal, any more than all calendars are. The common element is their sequential nature. Beyond that, the size, style of representation, portability, and length vary infinitely. We employed Bryce's first visual schedule when he entered pre-K, long before the convenience and flexibility of handheld electronic devices. We used Board Masters, a system of simple line drawings depicting various activities, to create small laminated squares with Velcro on the back that we arranged in a strip depicting the day's routine: get up, eat breakfast, get dressed, brush teeth, get on bus. Bryce did each task, then removed the picture, dropped it in an attached envelope, and moved on to the next thing. It worked, sort of, but he never seemed engaged in it. A year later, we discovered that Bryce didn't relate to artwork. Stick figures had little meaning for him, nor did he want anything to do with fanciful or abstract illustration. He liked concrete images, photographs. He became much more engaged when I presented stories or instructions with photographs. Whether electronic, paper, or other medium, the first step in setting up a successful visual communication strategy is to identify your child or student's level of representation. That's fancy talk for determining what is visually meaningful to him. Bryce required photographs. For another child, it might be stick figures, pencil drawings, or full-color art. More concrete-thinking children may need to begin at the very basic level of the physical object. As the child grows older, it might be words in combination with pictures, and perhaps someday, words alone. Then it gets called a to-do list. This attention to modification as the child ages is a key element of the effectiveness of visual supports, ensuring that they continue to be useful in a manner that doesn't invite ridicule or ostracism. Consider as well how your child best tracks information. Don't assume it's left to right. It may be top to bottom. An occupational therapist can help you determine this. How many increments should appear on a schedule or a page at one time? Don't overwhelm. Start with 2 or 3 and work up from there. Visual strategies are not something to phase out as your child becomes progressively more independent. They are lifelong tools that foster organization, time management, flexibility, initiative, and a host of other executive functioning skills necessary for self-sufficiency. Over time, I keep coming up against gentle reminders that a visual schedule is more than a strip of stick figure sketches that we used to help Bryce learn to get ready for preschool. The level of representation and sophistication may escalate with the years, but not the need, and not the stability it provides and the stress it relieves. It's what keeps the calendar printers and smartphone designers in business. In the first weeks of middle school, in a new building full of new teachers and a sea of new faces, Bryce faced a formidable challenge. Outdoor School is a popular, long-standing program in our county wherein 6th graders go to local camps for a week to learn about native ecosystems. It's a terrific program, but one that raised many questions on both my part and Bryce's. He had never spent 5 nights away from home without family. He would be under the supervision of 2 teachers who had known him less than 6 weeks, and the rest of the camp staff who didn't know him at all. He would have to tolerate unfamiliar routine, unpredictable weather, sleeping and eating with children he had never met before, and perhaps worst of all, camp food. Although both school and camp staff assured me they would make any accommodation necessary, Bryce wasn't sure he wanted to go, changing his mind from hour to hour. We drove up to the camp for visitation, through which he remained silent. He surveyed the dining room, which would be, he was sure, a source of suffering. But wait, a spark of interest. On the wall by the door, larger than life, hung the daily schedule. 6:45, wake up. 7:15, flag. 7:30, breakfast. 10:30, wildlife studies. 11:15, lunch. 12 o'clock, quiet time. 5 o'clock, dinner. 5:45, songs. 6:30, campfire and class meeting, etc. The whole day, mapped out in manageable increments. "Would somebody get me a copy of this?" he asked. The staff not only shrunk the schedule to palm size, they laminated it, punched a hole in the corner, and hung it around his neck on a lanyard. Before he left, he also asked me for the meal-by-meal schedule I had gotten from the head cook, so he would know exactly when he would eat camp food and when he would ask for one of his own meals that I sent up with him. Bryce's teacher reported that, armed with his 2 frequently consulted visual schedules, he had easily settled in. The visual schedules provided predictability and a concrete routine that made the exotic, intimidating setting not only manageable, but enjoyable. Bryce organized and directed his cabin skit, a spoof on the morning inspection routine. At the final campfire, he moved his teacher to tears as he spoke about feeling unsure when he arrived, but making new friends throughout the week. He wore the same pair of socks the entire week and ignored the other 5 pairs in his bag. He had a typical outdoor school experience, and he spent the rest of the year telling anyone who asked that it was the best part of 6th grade. For teaching to be effective, you must be heard, and many children with autism hear better with a picture. Also recognize that what happens between the words and the picture is translation. You may need to slow down your usual pace of communication to allow that processing to happen. Give her extra time to respond. Don't repeat the same instructions over and over if they're not getting through. "Please don't explain," Eliza Doolittle scolds. "Show me." The success your child achieves with the aid of his visual supports may leave you sighing in relief and satisfaction, thinking, "I don't know what we'd do without them." That's your cue to take steps to ensure you never have to find out. You need backup or contingency plans and tools because electronic devices glitch, mysteriously lose files, run out of power at the worst possible moments, get lost or stolen, go through the laundry or that irresistible sprinkler, fall into the bathtub or toilet. Non-electronic supports are no less subject to physical damage or loss. Having a plan B at the ready when the child's primary support fails is as important as having the supports in the first place. I'm cautious myself in this regard, keeping both electronic and paper calendars, knowing that there will be at least several times a year when, for purposes of portability, iPads in the pouring rain at outdoor school wouldn't have been an option, cross-reference, or where the heck did I leave that dang phone, I'll be glad I did. For many children with autism, Visuals make sense where oral or written words don't. Picture it, get it, this way. Visual images are the powerful medium that organizes and explains your child's world, tames its stress, gives him understandable guidance and boundaries. See it his way. Teach him in a way that makes sense to him. Life then becomes less of a battle and he need be less of a warrior. He comes, he sees, he conquers. Chapter 7. Focus and build on what I can do rather than what I can't do.